There's an old proverb out there by, I believe it was Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, that says, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need. Well, in this case, the American Freedom Train, everybody wanted, or perhaps would want, it to run again. And that's not going to happen, but what it needed was a cosmetic restoration. And behind me, you can see the final result. Hi, this is Trevor from History on the Move, and in this video, we are going to be going all over this thing and explaining how did we get to this point, and point out some of the great little details and give some shout outs to people that help with this project, and really go into some good details so that way when you see this, because this is filmed before the grand unveiling, but this video will come out after the grand unveiling. So when you see this thing on platform 2, you got a better idea of what you're looking at. All right, so I'm on the ground here with AFT1. Let's start off at the front. Now I have a list of notes here that we're gonna work from. So let's first talk about what we're looking at, the paint job. So if you watch this channel for any length of time, you've probably seen restoration videos 1 and 2. And those videos get into how they media blasted this down to bare metal, and they did the paint job, or I should say they at least put the primer on. So it was 1 coat of primer and then 2 coats of top coat. But if you want to watch, the contractor's name was REF, R-E-F-F Services. They're the ones that did the media blasting and the painting, as well as some of the detail work. So with that in mind, like I said, there was 1 coat of primer and 2 coats of top coat. And it's kind of neat to point out that and those videos I talked about, Restoration Review 1 and 2, I'll link those in the description if you want to go back in time and watch those. But so this, the red, is actually Western Maryland Circus Red. So all this is Western Maryland Circus Red. Hopefully it shows up on the camera. There we go, there's a good angle. The black is just black, nothing special. And then this is B&O Blue. And these are the original colors. And I gotta say, Doug from FMW had to do some digging, but kudos to him. He was able to find exactly what he needed to get the exact colors. So props to him. Great job, Doug. So let's keep going here. So we talked about the paint. And one thing I do want to point out is, speaking of coats of things, the bell, as you can see here, has a coat of clear coat on it. One smattering of clear coat on there. And you're probably gonna say, Trevor, what in the world are the bags for? Well, that's to keep, things, and it's for safekeeping, because the marker lamps got needle scaled and cleaned and everything else, and the number boards were redone, everything else here. And so we want to keep that in the best shape possible until the grand unveiling. And remember, this video is being shot prior to the grand unveiling, and if all goes according to plan, we'll have a special guest coming here to actually cut these bags loose and to actually see what she looks like in her brand new state, we'll call it. So that is pretty neat. Stay tuned for that. Let's talk about the lettering here. Let's go back. So all the lettering, whether you saw it here where it says America, or the number 1 back here on the cab, or the front where it says American Freedom Train right here. Doug, big props to him. He did all of the tracing himself. He's tracing paper on every letter and every number. I watched him do it, and he took very, very detailed measurements of all the spacing, including, let's go back here, including the circle right here where the Great Seal is. So he got down to like the 64th of an inch, which is really just, he really took very studious notes. And let's also talk about, and I'll flash their card up on the screen for you right now, the artists that did this. David J. and hopefully I say this right, Lene J. Tutwiler from Indiana. And they are longtime friends and with members of the Fort Wayne Historical Society, 765, and as well as FMW Solutions. And they're pretty well known in the road community for their artwork. And they do have a connection and a little bit of a history with the American Freedom Chain. So that's pretty neat to point out as well. The original artist, though, way back in the 70s was Bob Lorenz. He was the one that did the initial seal on there, and probably any touch-ups over the years until it came here in 1979. So that is pretty neat to point out. So let's keep moving. Oh, something I do want to talk about, and I know this will probably get brought up, is, oh, why'd they paint the rods? Well, let's talk about it for a second. This is a good topic. So on operational steam locomotives, right, things that are actually moving and have a fire in them, you don't want to paint your rods. They are polished. You say, why is that? Well, so that way they can do inspections and they can see for themselves if there's any cracks or defects. You need to be able to see that. If you paint over it, you'll most likely miss it, and that camouflages a lot of stuff. But on a, we'll call it a restoration like this, where it's a cosmetic thing, right? This thing is 99.2% sure in my book, in my opinion, is not going to run again. Never say never, but I'm fairly certain of this. But in this case, in a cosmetic restoration, you want to paint the rods because, it makes good sense, and it keeps maintenance to an absolute minimum here, where it's just going to be something that's going to sit and people are going to come by and look at it. So that is exactly why. Let's go up into the cab and have a look-see up there. Okay, so thanks for joining me here in the cab. Let's talk about, one thing is the seats were in pretty bad shape. So the engineer's seat, the fireman's seat, and the head and brakeman's seat here. And these were actually reupholstered by a gentleman, and Doug forgot his name, so forgive Doug. And forgive me, because Doug told me and I forgot to. But this gentleman is located in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and this guy also did the seats for the big boy at Steamtown. So that's pretty neat to point out, that the big giant was at 4012 that's up there. So definitely shout out to whoever you are in Scranton, Pennsylvania that does the upholstering, because this is a very, very beautiful, beautiful job. Very well done. And big shout out, let's come over here, we'll get a better view of the windows. Chuck Young, who helped he's worked on numerous steam projects over the years. Great guy, fun to talk to, and man, can you learn some information from Chuck. He did these windows. Now, these would have opened, obviously, back when this was 2101 and during Freedom Train and Chessie Steam Special days. But after the Roundhouse fire in '79, and it was brought here to the museum, it was brought here with two sections of windows that were just put in like this. So this is a one-piece, or it's a two-piece window designed to look like a one-piece here. And this is red oak, is what you're looking at here. Actually, you know what? Let's go over to the engineer's side. You can see better. Yeah, you can definitely see better over here. And so this is red oak here. And so you can see they just sit in a track right here. And that is the magic of Chuck Young. So he did the engineer's side, fireman side and the head end brakeman's side there. And so all this was just painted, and obviously all of your knobs are just going to be painted red here. And this is the same theory applies to everything else here. Sandblasted, or sorry, media blasted, one coat of primer, and then 2 top coats went over everything in here. Everything, roof, everything got it. So that's the cab, and you can see the tender as well. Same deal here as well, and just a phenomenal job.
Oceans and mountains, rivers and valleys, anywhere you go, I'll go too. There ain't no way I'm leaving without you, baby.
All right, so I've ascended the running boards here. One thing I will give a shout out to, a person who did a great job here, is Andrew Hirschman. He redid all of the fronts here. He fabricated these because these are pretty well rotted away on here, and I believe the doors down here on these, both of the number boards, so on the headlight and up here as well on this number board. So great job, Andrew. I think it looks phenomenal. Also, while we're up here, FMW, Doug and his crew replaced all of the boiler jacketing, and you can see, we talked about it, I should say, in restoration review number 2, that all of that got pulled off, replaced with new 18 gauge sheet metal, and they did a great job. You can see, again, it's a cosmetic job, but it still just looks phenomenal. So all of the jacketing here, obviously this was still in pretty good shape, so they reused it. The sand dome, I know, got some work done, a little bit of work done to it, but it was still in pretty good shape when it came off. And the steam dome, same deal. It was good enough to pass, so that looks pretty good. But yeah, so all this was replaced, and they again did the same thing here. They just kept this because this was in pretty good shape, all things considered. And again, it's a cosmetic restoration. It's not meant to steam again. So big kudos. And then we showed this in one of the restoration reviews. I can't remember if it's 1 or 2, but they replaced this down here. They did a beautiful job welding it and seaming it in. And so this metal right here, this was rotted and pretty bad, like it was letting water in. So they did a great job, Doug and his crew, with replacing this, seaming it in. Just looks really, really good. Well, we learned today that you cannot always get what you want, but in this case, we got what we needed, which was a cosmetic restoration of AFT1, or the American Freedom Train. So big shout out though to Doug Hitt from FMW. You outdid yourself, my friend, and I'm sure you will go on to do bigger and better projects with FMW. This one was phenomenal. I think, considering things like costs and budgets and space and time, etc., all the constraints you had to work in, I think you did pretty stinking good, my friend. So shout out to you, big kudos. And for those of you that are going to come out to the B&O Railroad Museum, and I highly encourage you to do that, to come see AFT1 or the American Freedom Train for yourself, you now know the little details, the little nuances that Doug and his team went through to make it look like this. So this is Trevor from History on the Move. Get out here and come see it for yourself. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Remember to get out there, read history, explore history, and most importantly, make your own history. I'll see you on the next one.